How Filipinos become foreign spies. Understanding the enemy's surveillance strategy solves only half the equation. The more troubling vulnerability lies in the human networks being cultivated across the Philippines, where ordinary citizens are transformed into foreign assets through methods that exploit uniquely Filipino social pressures. Money is rarely enough, explains former counterintelligence officer Colonel Ricardo Mendoza. The most effective recruitment happens when we don't even realize we're being recruited. This insight challenges the conventional wisdom that espionage is primarily driven by financial gain. While money plays a role, Chinese intelligence has developed a recruitment playbook specifically tailored to Filipino cultural and economic realities. Small business owners struggling with tight margins are particularly vulnerable. Eduardo Santos, who owned a modest import-export company in Cebu, faced bankruptcy in late 2024 when a Chinese businessman appeared with a generous offer, a low-interest loan with minimal paperwork. The requirement seemed innocent: regular reports on shipping activities and occasional photographs of vessels entering Cebu's harbor. By the time Santos realized he was feeding information to Chinese intelligence, he was financially entangled beyond escape. The psychological toll was devastating. Santos later described feeling trapped between betraying my country and destroying my family's livelihood. This pattern repeats across the archipelago. The National Security Council estimates that at least 60 small business owners in strategic locations have been compromised through similar financial entanglements. These aren't dramatic spy recruitment scenes from movies. They're gradual processes where the line between business relationship and intelligence asset blurs until it disappears. Family connections provide powerful recruitment leverage, especially with over 2.5 million Filipinos living and working in China or Chinese-controlled territories by 20. We've documented cases where Filipinos with relatives studying in Chinese universities suddenly face visa complications, reveals Captain Maria Rios of the Naval Intelligence Service. These issues mysteriously resolve when the Filipino family member begins providing information. This tactic exploits the Filipino value of utang na loob, debt of gratitude, and family loyalty. When a Chinese official helps resolve a relative's problem overseas, the resulting sense of obligation creates a psychological hook that's difficult to resist. Career advancement offers another sophisticated recruitment pathway. In industries with significant Chinese investment, particularly technology, infrastructure, and energy, professional success increasingly depends on maintaining good relationships with Chinese partners. I was offered a management position that doubled my salary, confesses an anonymous source from a Chinese-backed telecommunications company in Manila. Gradually, my role involved collecting information about government contracts and competitor technologies. When I expressed concerns, my superior reminded me how easily I could be replaced. The emotional burden of this compromise led to anxiety and depression, as the individual recognized their complicity but saw no way out without financial ruin. By 2025, unwitting recruitment has become prevalent. Dozens of Filipinos have provided sensitive information while believing they were conducting legitimate research. We interviewed a marine biologist, mapping underwater terrain features near naval bases, explains Commander Antonio Batista. She thought she was working for an environmental group. The data she collected was perfect for submarine navigation. The targeting of government employees and military personnel represents the most alarming trend. Rather than direct approaches, Chinese intelligence employs social engineering campaigns through hobby groups, churches, or community organizations where targets are active. By 2025, security services have identified at least 15 government employees who shared classified information after being cultivated through trusted social relationships. What links these diverse recruitment channels is their exploitation of distinctly Filipino values: family loyalty, economic security, community trust, and professional advancement. Each creates compromised individuals who rarely fit traditional espionage profiles. We're facing assets who don't fit any traditional profile, admits Security Service Director General Carlos Villanueva. They are ordinary Filipinos caught in extraordinary circumstances who made a series of small compromises that led to espionage. This reality has forced a fundamental shift in Philippine counterintelligence strategy toward prevention, through awareness programs and support systems for vulnerable populations, particularly those with overseas family members or in industries with heavy Chinese investment. Legal battlegrounds. Philippines fight against espionage. These counterintelligence efforts face a crippling obstacle that few Filipinos realize exists. The country's legal framework for fighting espionage was designed for a world of microfilm and dead drops, not digital networks and corporate infiltration, creating a paradise for foreign spies who know exactly how to exploit these outdated laws. The Anti-Espionage Act of 1950, crafted during the Cold War era, primarily addresses wartime scenarios and conventional spy tactics. This creates an alarming situation where intelligence officers must watch known operatives walk free because their activities don't fit into 70-year-old legal definitions. It's like trying to secure a modern building with antique locks. Technically, they're security measures but utterly ineffective against contemporary threats. We're fighting 21st century threats with legal tools from the previous century, explained Justice Secretary Manuel Buenaventura in a recent closed-door briefing with security officials. Our current laws define espionage primarily as stealing military secrets during wartime. But what about corporate espionage targeting our economic infrastructure? What about digital infiltration of government networks during peacetime? These activities fall into dangerous legal gray areas. This legal inadequacy creates absurd situations. In March 2025, Philippine authorities identified 3 Chinese nationals conducting sophisticated digital surveillance of a communications facility in Batangas. Despite overwhelming evidence of espionage activities, prosecutors could only charge them with minor cybercrime violations carrying maximum sentences of 3 years, a fraction of what equivalent crimes would receive in other countries. Colonel Maria Santillan of the Philippine National Police Cybercrime Division described it precisely. It's like catching a burglar inside your house with your valuables in his hands, but only being able to charge him with trespassing. We know exactly what they're doing, but our laws don't give us the tools to properly prosecute. The Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council has prioritized updating the Anti-Espionage Act, proposing amendments to include peacetime foreign intelligence activities with graduated penalties ranging from 20 years to life imprisonment for serious offenses. However, political realities complicate reform efforts. This diplomatic tightrope creates additional complication. In April 2025, when authorities arrested a Chinese businessman operating a technology firm that had been siphoning data from Philippine government networks, diplomatic channels immediately filled with warnings about potential economic consequences. The individual was quietly deported rather than prosecuted, a pattern that intelligence officers describe as frustratingly common. There's significant resistance from certain political factions who worry about economic repercussions, revealed a senior legislative aide, speaking anonymously. When we introduced stronger provisions against economic espionage, 3 senators immediately raised concerns about potential Chinese retaliation against Philippine exports. The legal inadequacies extend to Philippine citizens working for foreign intelligence services. The revised penal code requires that the Philippines be in a state of war for treason charges to apply. Proposed updates would create new categories of peacetime intelligence compromise with comparable penalties. But the legislation remains stalled in committee debates. In response to these constraints, Philippine security services have developed alternative approaches. Rather than pursuing criminal prosecutions, they increasingly focus on neutralizing espionage networks through administrative measures, deportations, visa cancellations, business license revocations, and targeted financial investigations. The Anti-Money Laundering Council has become an unexpected asset, using financial investigations to target funding mechanisms supporting foreign intelligence networks. In February 2025, authorities froze accounts of 7 companies identified as intelligence operation fronts, effectively shutting down a major surveillance network. The Department of Immigration has implemented enhanced screening procedures that have identified and denied entry to dozens of suspected intelligence operatives since January. We've developed sophisticated risk profiles based on patterns observed in confirmed cases, explained Commissioner Antonio Salvador. This allows us to interrupt operations before they become established. Despite these challenges, there are signs of progress. The recent establishment of a National Counterintelligence Center represents a significant step forward, creating a dedicated institution focused specifically on detecting and disrupting foreign intelligence operations within current legal constraints, while supporting the push for reform. The legal reform package currently under consideration would create specialized counterintelligence courts with judges trained in handling sensitive intelligence matters. This addresses another significant weakness: the current system's inability to protect classified information during prosecution.